صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. صل على محمد. Respected Maulana, dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. As we gather on this eve of the 9th of Muharram, our hearts and minds are immersed in the profound sacrifices that defined the essence of our faith. Tonight we draw closer in our collective remembrance of the timeless stand for justice and truth made by Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and later this evening in particular we will remember his beloved son, Hazrat Ali Akbar. Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam was a symbol of youth, bravery, and piety, who stood by his father in Karbala and exemplified the virtues of the Ahlul Bayt. As we reflect on the sacrifices made in Karbala, let us also contemplate the relevance of these lessons in our lives today. May the stories of these great martyrs inspire us to live with honor and dignity, to support the oppressed, and to strive for the betterment of our communities and the world at large. Let us proceed with tonight's program. Our program tonight will be led by the recitation of the Noble Quran by Brother Ali Muhammad Ganji, and this will be followed by two recitations. The first one will be by Shababul Mehdi. This is a youth group of young boys who will recite, and this will be followed by Brother Musa Castillo. And once again, our Majlis tonight, inshallah, will be addressed by our very own Hujjatul Islam, Sayyid Sulayman Hasan Abidi. I would now like to share some important community announcements. As we get closer to the day of Ashura, I'd like to walk you all through the schedule for that day. The Amal of the day of Ashura will take place at 8 a.m., led by Hujjatul Islam, Sayyid Sulayman Hasan Abidi. We will also have the annual downtown procession or Julus. This will take place from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and the start and the end of the Julus will be at the Daily Center. Following that, the Majlis for the day of Ashura will begin with Salat al-Zohar at 2 p.m. This will be followed by English Majlis, then the Urdu Majlis. And then we will have Ziyarat and Faqa Shikni. And then lastly, the Majlis for the Sham al-Ghariba. This will begin with Salat al-Maghrib at 8:40. Immediately after that, we will have Salam Marsiya, as well as the English Majlis, the Urdu Majlis, and then we will have Salam-e-Akhir, followed by Matam and Ziyarat. On Sunday, July 28th, Beit al-Ilm is hosting its 15th annual blood drive from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. As you've all been hearing, we would like to encourage our youth, especially to participate in this blood drive this year. Additionally, registration for the Beit al-Ilm Quran Academy is now open, and the fall semester begins on August 15th. These classes are held Thursdays and Fridays from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And for any follow-up questions, you're welcome to speak with Sayyid Kazim Hussain. Additionally, registration for the Beit al-Ilm Sunday School is also now open, and these are for children ages 2 to 15. Links to the registration form are on our website under the Sunday School tab, and the first day of school will be August 18th. And then two more announcements. So as many of you may have noticed, Beit al-Ilm has put out a sabil outside. The volunteers out there requested me to request all of you to please stop by either on your way in or on your way out over the next several days. And then lastly, our security volunteers, particularly for the brothers, have asked that the entrance to this hall here please do not sit in that entrance. Just in terms of our security protocol, we have to make sure that there is a clear entry and exit coming in and out of this hall. At this time, we will begin our program with the recitation of Surah 89, Surah Al-Fajr. I would like to request Brother Ali Muhammad Kanji to please come forward at this time. Let's all welcome him with a loud salawat.
الله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسر هل في ذلك قسم لذي حجر ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد إرم ذات العماد التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم.
For his Sayyid and Salamti, for his parents, and for his teachers, let us all recite a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Next, we have a very special recitation from our youth, Shabab al-Mahdi, along with their teacher, Brother Abbas Zaidi. I would like to request that they come forward at this time. Let us all welcome them with a loud salawat.
ومحمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى all our lives, son of a Zahra, you're our guide, son of a Zahra, all our lives. Without you by our side, there's no light we'll find. You taught us to be free. Beauty is all we see. My master Salamu. Without you by our side, there's no light we'll find. You taught us to be free. Beauty is all we see. My master Salam. Hussein, my master, we stand and hear your call. We're ready to answer. Hussein, my master, every year we'll shout out labbaik right under your banner. Hussein, my master, your land, take me by the hand. Near you I long to stand, to see your golden sand. Near you I long to stand. Masters of martyrs, I'm far from your land. Choose us all by your side, Ya Hussein, to reach Karbala. Your land, take me by the hand. Near you I long to stand, to see your golden sand. Near you I long to stand. Master of martyrs, I'm far from your land. Choose us all by your side, Ya Hussein, to reach Karbala. Hussein, my master, we stand and hear your call. We're ready to answer. Hussein, my master, every year we'll shout out labbaik right under your banner. Hussein, my master. Even though we're young, we know there were younger that day slain in Karbala. Even though we're young, we know we must be brave like your youngest Abdullah. Even though we're young, we know if we follow your path, we'll hold our heads high with Zahra. Labbaika, my master, we're here to answer the call for help you made alone. We won't be. Labbaika, my master, we've left our homes to come and answer your call. Tell us, can you see? Labbaika, my master, we will never forget what you've done for us for all eternity. Bi'abi anta ummi, ya Hussein. Hussein, my master, we stand and hear your call. We're ready to answer. Hussein, my master, every year we'll shout out labbaik right under your banner. Hussein, my master, our pledge to you to await our Savior. Our pledge to you with the best behavior. Our pledge to you to stay on your path, keeping close to Allah's Quran. Our pledge we all swear. Our pledge to you until the time we see Imam Mahdi rise. Our pledge to you to call his name, to serve your grandson Hussein until the end of our days. Ya Hujjat Allah, I know each year you cry blood for Hussein with each tear. I know Ya Mahdi, you see and hear. We'll hold his banner high till you appear. Hussein, my master, we stand and hear your call. We're ready to answer. Hussein, my master, every year we'll shout out labbaik right under your banner. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
These boys have put in countless hours over the last several days for all of their hard work, and also especially for Abbas Bhai, who has just dedicated so much time and invested so much in these children, for all of their sehat and salamti, and for Allah to continue to give them the tawfiq to continue in the path of Imam Hussein. Let us all recite a loud salawat. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Our next reciter is Brother Musa Castillo. At this time, I would like to request him to please come forward at this time. Let's all welcome him with us.
If you will allow me the honor, I would like to commemorate this first one to Hazrat Abbas. A realization for me is that I do connect well with him, in the sense that I would listen to my father when he would say to listen to my brother. In any case, he is older than me, so I understand that he has more wisdom than I do. So I feel the same when Imam Ali would tell Hazrat Abbas to always follow the orders of Imam Hussein. This first one is called The Promise to the Lion. Please recite salawat. I cannot bear, I pace and patiently standing right here. I see my kin, the Prophet's family is filled with fear. Upon the field, my gaze is locked on all of my brothers, as I witness my brave young men now becoming martyrs, dropping their swords as one by one starts falling to their knees. I ask my dear Imam Hussein, I beg you send me please, while in the clanging swords from the battle, I hear the wind as it whispers to me my father's words in the deathbed of Ali. To follow Hussein's orders, I am told. The promise of the lion I will hold. He turns to me to raise his hand and holds me with his words. Do not proceed You are my captain, please have some sabr. I cannot hold, while on my mind is just Sakina's thirst. I must go now in order for us to prevent the worst. Imam Hussein, without skipping a beat, he lets me go. I ride in haste, I'm drawing near, I hear the rivers flow. Although I still hear cries from our tents, I hear the roaring waters speak to me. My father's words, the deathbed of Ali. To follow Hussein's orders, I am told. The promise of the lion I will hold. As I arrive, the freshness of the river hits my face. I seal my mouth, I will not be the first to have this taste. 'Tis not for me, I'm only here so I may reach my goal. For my sweet niece, may this water help her revive her soul. I fill the flask while I hear enemies surrounding me. I don't waste time, I climb my horse and we begin to flee. It seems I will not make it to the tents. Forgive me, God, how can I think that way? I pray that I will make you proud today. I'll go on even if they bring me harm. I'll go forth even if I lose my arm. The enemy has captured me at last. I can no longer hold this punctured flask. I lay in my blood and begin to sob, as all the women will lose their hijabs. A light approaches me, is that Father? It's my Imam Hussein, my pure master. I cannot move, my body's feeling weak. He holds me dear, his tears run down my cheek. A story we will not forget to honor and to tell, of a great man and his father's promise that he had held. Salawat. While in battle, Imam Hussein sees the warriors fall one by one. And he feels that Ali Akbar, his time will come. It's already that one time he's seen the Prophet fall and pass on. So how hard would it be to see the Prophet fall again? This next one is called I See My Prophet. Please recite salawat. I saw them all fall, my warriors, one by one in the field. My Ali Akbar, he ready as he says his goodbye. When I look at you, I see the prophet, my grandfather in you. I can't lose my son, my brave boy. You leave your family here, but I can't deny his request. It's as if I deny the prophet, so I'll honor you to be in battle as you ride in the sun. When I look at you, I see my prophet, my grandfather in you, my grandfather in you. Salawat. As for this last one, my main request to Allah was that as the heroes in battle fell, that He would keep them close to Him. This next one is close to you. Please recite salawat. Faith is all they have. They believe in their Lord, believed in their Lord. Hoping to be saved from those holding them from their mission. Death will be their friend. Life's coming to an end. God, keep these fallen men close to you in heaven. In the battlefield, you only saw red, mother's tears he knew clear. This was his grave. Death will be his friend. His life comes to an end. God keep these fallen men close to you in heaven. Pain of a different kind, she us keep in mind. Sacrifices are blessing from Allah, from Allah. Salawat.
MashaAllah, Brother Musa. That was a beautiful recitation of English poetry. For his Sayyid Salamti, let us all recite a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I would now like to recognize our sponsors for tonight's program. For the health, safety, and continued blessings for the family of Brother Hassan Lokanwala and Brother Shaheen Khan, please recite as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. These sponsoring families have requested that you remember the marhumin of your families as well as the marhumin of their families. In particular, Muhammad Ali Lokanwala, Ali Raza Lokanwala, Narjis Bano, Ruqayya Ghulam Hussain, Ijaz Ali Fazl, Hassan Ali Abdullah, Zain Bun Nisa Wasiya, Ali Muhammad Nurani and family, Sadruddin Nazar Ali and family, Ghulam Hussain, Muhammad Ali and family, Akbar Ali Nurani, and Dawlat Nurani. Please join me in reciting one Surah Fatiha, one Surah Ikhlas, preceded by a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah. As a final reminder, following tonight's Majlis, those who are staying for Matam, you are requested to make your way quietly to the masjid upstairs to join the Urdu program. For those of you who are planning to leave, we ask that you please drive slowly to ensure maximum safety in the parking lot. And if you haven't yet, please, if you wouldn't mind, double checking your cell phones are in fact on mute or at least on vibrate. It is now time for us to begin the Majlis. Let us all please stand and welcome our esteemed scholar, Hujjatul Islam. Right or to your left. Thank you. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Surah Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين فاطر السماوات والأرضين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين المبعوث رحمة للعالمين شفيع المذنبين وحبيب قلوب الصادقين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد فقد قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون ولقد فتنا الذين من قبلهم فليعلمن الله الذين صدقوا وليعلمن الكاذبين صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we have discussed over the last several nights in Surah Al-Ankabut, Allah reminds us that we should not expect that once we have said that we are believers, that we should have an easy life, but rather, just as the previous religious communities before us were tested and subjected to trials by Allah, we too will be subjected to trials. And it is through those trials that those who are sincere and truthful will be separated and distinguished from those who are false. And what it means to be false is to claim to be a believer, but then either not to mean it at all or not to follow it up in practice. And the best way for us to prepare for the tests of our time and the tests that we might be subjected to in the future are for us to examine those who came before us. Who were the ones that succeeded and who were the ones that failed? And those that succeeded, what led to their success? And those that did not pass the test, what led to their failure? Now, in this discussion, from the circumstances and the attributes of the believers at the beginning of the Prophet's mission, we came to a discussion of what is to come after the Prophet. And what we find is that there are two different narratives or two different understandings of how the message of the Prophet is to be continued after his own time. Now, as everyone knows, this is a topic of great controversy. And in many cases, it is an emotional topic, and it should be an emotional topic because it pertains to our most deeply held beliefs and values. Sometimes people, they admire those who are able to talk about very important subjects without any emotion. But that is not a sign of maturity or an admirable quality. God forbid, if somebody talks about my mother or my father in an insulting manner, then it should be a very sensitive and emotional topic for me. Now, how I respond is a matter of my values and my priorities and my wisdom and my upbringing. Sometimes I should respond directly. At other times, the best response is to ignore those who speak out of ignorance and deliberately to provoke. So, it is not that I should always respond out of anger, because if somebody can control my anger, then they control me. Even if they talk about the most dear and emotional subjects in my heart. But I should feel at a very deep and visceral level an emotional response, because that is the natural result of my love for my mother or for my father, for my brother or for my sister, for my son or for my daughter, for my fellow mu'min, believer, and others that I have a relationship with. So sometimes, coming from that background of intra-Muslim debate and discussion and very impassioned discussions, some people admire those who are able to talk about the history of Islam as if they were talking about history that doesn't affect them. Or, God forbid, as if they're talking about fiction. This is what the Sunnis believe, this is what the Shias believe, and it is just a narrative. That is not admirable. If you are a Sunni, then you believe what you believe with a great deal of passion, and you believe that that is the true message of the Prophet, and that it is important to honor it and to preserve it, and to follow it, and maybe even to teach it. And that is how it should be. And if you are a Shi'i, then you believe that there is a certain message of the Prophet, and that is the heart of what he conveyed to his ummah, and you want to learn it, and to study it, understand it, follow it, and spread it, and that is how it should be. There does need to be a conversation, because in the end we are all members of the same ummah. And in the end, even if we have very important and real disagreements, we also have a shared relationship and obligation to Allah and to the Prophet and to the Quran, and to honoring the name and the message of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what we share is not going to remove where we differ. But where we differ should not overshadow what we share. It is narrated that after the death of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the followers of a previous religion was in Medina, and he saw the difference that existed among the Muslims, and he said, maybe with a little bit of sarcasm or mocking, that مَا مَاتَ نَبِيُّكُمْ حَتَّى اخْتَلَفْتُمْ فِيهِ. Your Prophet has barely died, and already you are disputing about him. And Imam Ali alayhi salam is said to have been present. And whether the story is real or apocryphal, it is real in the purport and the message that it gives. It is said that he responded that إِنَّمَا اخْتَلَفْنَا عَنْهُ وَلَمْ نَخْتَلِفْ فِيهِ. We only disputed about the best way to carry forward his message. We did not dispute about him and about his prophecy, about the revelation that God gave to him, about the belief in one Quran. Yes, there is a real dispute. اختلفنا عنه. So that is real. But لم نختلف فيه. We did not dispute about the fact that he is the messenger of Allah and that there is one God and that he sent our prophet with a book which is the Quran, that is the lasting miracle of Prophet Muhammad and of Islam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So there are debates among Muslims about Tawheed, and there are debates among Muslims about Nubuwah and about the attributes and about the infallibility of the Prophet, but there is much that is shared. So we have to develop a little bit of a thick skin. And I'm speaking to all Muslims, regardless of what school of thought they may follow, that allow people to maybe reach a different conclusion, but to have their beliefs, and do not think that the way to have good relations is to remove our passionate connection to our beliefs, but rather develop maturity and adab and etiquette and humility to have passionate beliefs, but to also recognize that other people have passionate beliefs as well, and I might think that they are wrong, but I have an obligation to be humble and to be respectful before them. And that is why I gave the example of family. Because there are some people, they say, you know what, I'm proud to be part of this ethnicity or this race, and our race is the best, our ethnicity is the best, our nationality is the best. You know, there's all these theories that you'll find in various corners of the internet that people came from some other corner of the world and they built the pyramids and they did all of the wonderful things in ancient history because they want all greatness to be part of their ethnicity and their racial group. So they have an intense love and loyalty to whatever group they belong to, but they also have a disdain or look at others as being inferior. When Islam wants us to be loyal to our family, our tribe, our clan, your ethnicity, that is certainly something to honor and to be proud of. But recognize that if you are proud of your mother, you don't need to honor her by saying that she is better than everybody else's mother. She is the best one for you because God chose her to be your mother. The minute that you have to compare and say that my mother is better than your mother, then you are not honoring your mother, but rather you are dishonoring her and your own humanity as well as insulting the other person. So there is humility, and that does not contradict loyalty and principles. The difference, of course, with family and with tribe and with other identities is that there is no need for us to say that my family is better or superior or right and another one is wrong. In fact, sometimes my parents may be wrong and I still have to honor them. And someone else's parents may be right, but I still have a greater obligation to my parents than to others, even as I have an obligation to the truth. But when it comes to your religion, and when it comes to your beliefs, whether you are a believer, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, or a member of another faith, talking with somebody who doesn't believe in God at all, or you are a believer in one God, talking with people who believe in many gods, or you are a believer in Islam, speaking with people who do not believe in Islam but worship one God, or you follow one school of thought within Islam. Here it is not just a matter of an emotional loyalty and obligation, it is also a question of what you believe to be true. So this is the difference between questions of belief and family. But the humility and the mutual respect, that is something that we can learn from our relationships with people who belong to other families or have other loyalties. I'm not saying that they are the same. It is very different when your loyalty is rooted in what you believe to be true than when your loyalty is rooted in an obligation and a relationship that God has given you. But the attributes that allow us to maintain those relationships, they are very much the same. And they are humility and mutual respect and the adab that we learn from the Quran and from the character of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. That even if you are disputing with those who disagree with you about God and about His Prophet, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, you still dispute in the most honorable and in the best way, not in a very aggressive way and not in a way where you are going to cut corners with the truth in order to win the discussion or the debate. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. But when it comes to the story of Islam, there is one group that believes that what took place in Saqifa, where a caliph was chosen, was correct and honorable. And there is another group that says that no, it was not left to the Muslims to choose who is to succeed the Prophet, because the nature of the message of the Prophet was not a social role or a political role that is within our horizon or our ability to see who is the most qualified. It was a religious role, a spiritual role, the role of illumination and guidance, and that is known to Allah. And it is by His appointment that the Prophet's message can continue in a successor who is qualified to carry on that torch that he held. For those who do believe in Saqifa, the main question we have is that why was the logic that governed the decision making in Saqifa not an Islamic logic that was rooted and based in the Quran? If Islam is a religion that came not to impose justice through political means, not through fines and imprisonment or coercion, but rather through guidance and through the reform of a person's conscience, then should not the succession of the Prophet and carrying on that torch be rooted in that which is the source of the authority and the legitimacy of the Prophet himself? And the answer that often comes is that yes, well, the Prophet had just died, and the Arabs, they were new to Islam, and there was a threat of rebellion, and it actually took place in what is known as the apostasy or the wars of apostasy, Hurub al-Ridda. And so it wasn't like the Muslims had a great deal of luxury, of time, and so they had to make a rush decision in Saqifa. But that answer doesn't solve the problem, it creates another problem. Because the conquest of Mecca took place in the 8th year of Hijrah. Almost 2 years, a little less than 2 years before the death of the Prophet. And there were 10,000 soldiers loyal to the Prophet who participated in that conquest. Then in the Battle of Tabuk, according to some estimates, there were 70,000 soldiers. Maybe that is a high-end estimate, but it was certainly more than the 10,000 that participated in the conquest of Mecca. And then in Hijjatul Wada', the farewell pilgrimage of the Prophet, according to narrations, it is said that more than 100,000 Muslims participated in that farewell pilgrimage with the Prophet. And so, if there are 10,000 soldiers almost 2 years before, and then tens of thousands of new soldiers under your command, and then there are 100,000 people who are, by the definition of the majority of the Muslims, because they saw the Prophet and they believed in the Prophet and they remained believers, they are companions. And if all companions are adil, as-sahaba kulluhum udul, and they are not ma'soom, but they are of upright character, then is 100,000 people not enough to ensure that there is no need for a rush decision and that you can have a considered decision based on the teachings and the priorities of the Quran? So either Saqifa was rushed because the Muslims were in a bad situation. The Prophet had just died and there was an immediate threat to the stability of society. Well, in that case, then those 10,000 companions and those tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of companions of upright character were not sufficient to ensure justice. Or, at the very least, you have to question whether the companions were at that level of respect and upright character that so many Muslims attribute to them. And if that is the case, then what is to say that they made the right decision in Saqifa? So there is a problem. Either the companions were of upright character, in which case there was no need for Saqifa. You shouldn't have been in a bad position needing to make a snap decision where prominent companions who were very close to the Prophet, his family members, Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, and so many others were not even able to be asked or allowed to participate. Either you really had an emergency situation, then don't say that all of the companions are of upright character. Or you didn't have an emergency situation, in which case then why was the decision not made in accordance with the logic of the Quran? And the question that comes after that, of course, is, all right, if we forget Saqifa, then after Saqifa, right up until the abolishment of the Caliphate in 1924, how many years ago? 100 years ago. Where was this Islamic logic of governance and authority demonstrated and applied? What is it? We have ulama, and those ulama, they often put a lot of effort into the study of Islamic law and hadith and doctrine and theology and tafsir. But those ulama who would be appointed to positions of authority as judge or qadi, where did they get their authority from in Islamic history? From governments. And those governments would choose a qadi that would further their purposes, keeping in mind somebody who would maintain credibility within society. But that political authority did not come from the application of the message, the priorities, the teachings of the Quran. It came in almost every case from a dynastic succession within a ruling family. So if we just look at that, then it gives us a clear question. That what is the commandment of Islam about how the leadership of the Muslim Ummah is to be continued after the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if we understand that the Prophet had a purpose, and that purpose was not to end with his death, but was to continue and to reach a culmination, then when we come to the ahadith of the Prophet and the verses of the Quran, we understand that if the Quran says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum, O you who believe, obey Allah and obey the Prophet and those in authority among you. Those in authority and among you cannot just be somebody who has the bigger army and conquers and kills the previous king, or is appointed by a sinful king to be his successor, that is ulil amri minkum. That might have been what happened in history, but that cannot be the logic of the Quran, and that cannot be what Allah intended when He revealed this verse and said, "Ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum." And in short, what we can say is that we agree with those who do not follow Ahlul Bayt that there is a very important role for the Ummah. Because the Quran says, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. You are the best ummah brought forth before the people. You command what is right, you forbid what is evil, you obey in Allah. We agree with the broader Muslim community about that, but there is a missing link which they forgot, which is that to be that ummah, you need to have an imam, because it is the imam by which the ummah acquires its unity and acquires its purpose. We are with you on the part of the Prophet, and we are with you on the obligation that falls on the ummah. But where we separate is that we say, if you just throw a bunch of people together and say that you are an ummah, figure it out. Find people who are more knowledgeable than others, well then we will dispute. Some of you may have heard that there was a difference in methodology between, just in the Valley of Law and not in other areas of Islamic doctrine, between the four well-known schools of thought in Sunni Islam. So Abu Hanifa, he lived in a time before the study of hadith had really been formalized and developed. And so his methodology was to go based on the teaching of a previous generation of scholars, not formalized in hadith, but their understanding of what it is that the Prophet had taught, primarily from the city of Kufa, where Abu Hanifa and his teachers lived. But then later on, the study of hadith became formalized, and many people opposed Abu Hanifa because they said that he did not follow hadith. It isn't that he opposed hadith. Those hadith did not exist in that formal manner in books and with recognized chains of transmission in the time of Abu Hanifa and in the city of Abu Hanifa. Then Imam Malik came in the next generation, and in some ways his methodology was not that different from Abu Hanifa, but he said that I give priority to the city of Medina and its scholars, because this is the city of the Prophet. This is the city where the Prophet lived and the Prophet taught, and so the tradition of the people of Medina, if it differs from the city of Kufa, this is more likely to be accurate, because this is the city of the Prophet. But then, as Muslims from Medina and Muslims from Kufa and Basra and other cities, Sham and Iraq and other places, they met and they saw that somebody says the Prophet prayed with his hands down, and somebody says the Prophet prayed with his hands by his side. Malik, because he was from the city of the Prophet, so he agrees with the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, that you pray with your hands, not by your side, but down. And it was the practice of the people of Kufa that they prayed with their hands by folded like this, and so that was what Abu Hanifa taught. Then there came to be a question that how do we reconcile that? We can't just have regional understandings of Islam. Islam was not regional. The Prophet didn't say the people of Kufa should pray like this, the people of Medina should pray like this, the people of Sham should pray like this, and Yemenis, why don't you go and do something else? So then gradually, and this was after the time of Imam Malik, and partially under his influence, that the primacy of hadith came, and we see that Imam Shafi'i, and then after him Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, they said that, well, we will follow not the regional tradition of the scholars of Kufa or the scholars of Medina or any other city, but the narrated ahadith, and we will determine what is right or what is wrong based on the chain of transmission. Now, here is the question. The Quran says, وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ, that the ranks of people, they are determined on the basis of their knowledge, and above everyone possessed of knowledge, there is another possessed of knowledge. There are different methodologies that we have described just among these four scholars in law, and similarly in doctrine. Is it possible to say which one is more knowledgeable than the other? Now, if you bring the Imams of Ahlul Bayt into the picture, if you bring Imam Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir, Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq alayhimus salam, sallu ala Muhammad, then we can say they are ma'soom and they are right, and anybody else is wrong. But among those four, it is difficult to say. There are different perspectives. Maybe if Abu Hanifa had been in the time of Imam Malik or in the time of Imam Shafi'i or in the time of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he might have had a response why he didn't choose their methodology. And maybe if they had been in the early time, they would have had a response to say why his methodology was wrong. The most you can say is these are different opinions. But if Islam is rooted in knowledge and in guidance, then what is the mechanism for us to know what is right? It isn't just going to be mutual debate. Because if that were going to solve the problem, then in 1400 years, we would have solved the problem. And so we agree that yes, the Prophet was sent by Allah with the perfect and complete revelation. And yes, the Ummah has a role. But the followers of Ahlul Bayt say, the Ummah is only as good as its knowledge of and its obedience to the Imam. Because Ummah means people who are all facing in the same direction. And it is your Imam who guides you, shepherds you, teaches you, and allows you to be able to follow the same guidance and understand it, and to face in the same direction to accomplish a shared purpose. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And that is why it is so important for us to recognize our Imams, and then to develop our relationship with each other on the basis of our attachment to our Imams. The attachment to the Imam is not a tribal attachment, but rather it is an attachment because of the honor that Allah bestowed upon them. It is attributed to our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq alayhi as-salam. That he said, ولايتي لعلي بن أبي طالب أحب إلي من ولادتي منه لأن ولادتي منه فضل وولايتي له فرض. Sometimes there are people who are very proud that they have ancestry that goes back to the Imams or to the Prophet. But the one who had that close ancestry and was an Imam himself and was ma'soom and chosen by Allah says that I have two connections to Imam Ali. I have wilayati li Ali ibn Abi Talib and I have wiladati min. I am born of Ali ibn Abi Talib because I am his great grandson. and I have a wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib because he is the Imam of Imam Hasan and Imam Hussein and the Imams that came after him, just as he is our Imam. And it is narrated that Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq says that the wilayat and the obedience I have to Imam Ali is more precious to me than the fact that I am his descendant. لأن ولادتي منه فضل, because my being a descendant is an honor that Allah has bestowed upon me. I didn't do anything, so I cannot take the credit. Allah takes the credit because He chose to place me in this family. That is a test. But wilayati lahu fard, my obedience to His leadership and His authority is an obligation. And the obligation that Allah has entrusted with me to say that you are worthy of this honor and you have an obligation to carry it out, that is more beloved to me than something that I have not earned and for which the credit belongs not to me but to Allah alone. And we have a similar hadith from our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir alayhi salam. ليس بين الله وبين أحد قرابة أحب العباد إلى الله وأكرمهم عليه أتقاهم وأعملهم بطاعته. Allah is not the father or the relative of anyone. We Muslims don't say that we are the children of God. Nor do we say that our Prophet, although he was the most beloved of God's creation, we don't say he was the child of God. There is no relationship of blood or of being a relative between anyone and Allah. Meaning Allah is not going to be prejudiced in favor of anyone. Everyone will be dealt with according to the justice and the mercy of Allah. Nobody is the favorite of Allah without cause, without justification, without merit. لَيْسَ بَيْنَ اللَّهِ وَبَيْنَ أَحَدٍ قَرَابَةٍ. We're partial maybe to our relatives. But Allah is not partial to anyone. If He honors anyone, then it is because they are worthy of that honor. أَحَبُّ الْعِبَادِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. The most beloved of God's creatures to Him, أَتْقَاهُمْ, are the ones who are the most pious, وَأَعْمَلُهُمْ بِطَاعَتِهِ, and the ones who most obey Allah. And that is then what brings us to our obligation and our relationship with one another as believers. When you come into your life, spend some time thinking about the journey that God has taken you through in your life. The pleasant memories and maybe the difficult ones. Some of you may have been born in one land and you studied in another land, and maybe you have known poverty and you have known good times. Maybe you have suffered and maybe you have had some triumphs in life. All of those experiences, all of those relationships, all of those opportunities, think about them not in order to tell your own story, but in order to understand that this is what God gave me as a test and as a basis for me to serve Him better. Every one of us has unique experiences. But that is not for me to say that I wish I were somebody else because they're so much more lucky than I am. Nor for me to say that I am better than somebody else because of what I have accomplished or what I know or what I have done. But rather for me to say that with all of these experiences and all of these resources, this is what God has given me and this is what I have to come and to serve. And so we have an obligation to our ummah. We have an obligation to humanity, and we have an obligation, most importantly, to Allah, His Prophet, and our Imams, to serve and to obey. and it was the practice of Ahlul Bayt, that you will find that whenever there was a need for sacrifice, it was those who were closest to the Prophet that always came forward, not to enjoy the fruit of the honor that Allah and the people bestowed on the Prophet, but rather to sacrifice. After the conquest of Khaybar, a great deal of wealth entered into the homes of the Muslims, tax revenue, but also because trade routes had opened up, and many Muslims began to live prosperous and even luxurious lives. But the one who was nearest and dearest to the Prophet, Fatima Zahra, she worked hard, and she worked not through assistants and maids and servants, but rather with her own effort until her very final breath. The greatest conquest or the greatest war booty that had entered into the Muslims' treasury was the Battle of Khaybar. And the Prophet's beloved cousin, Ja'far al-Tayyar, he came from exile to the Prophet at that conquest of Khaybar. And all of the Muslims were thinking, what part of this treasury are we going to get? And the Prophet says to Ja'far, that should I give you a gift? And Ja'far says, Ya Rasulullah, whatever you wish. And the Prophet taught him Salat Ja'far al-Tayyar, not gold and silver and treasury, but how to worship Allah in the best possible manner. That was a gift for Ja'far al-Tayyar. But it was also a reminder that the true treasury that you get from the Prophet is not to take pride that you are going to conquer territories and expand the frontiers of Islam. The legacy of the Prophet and the inheritance of the Prophet is his worship, is his knowledge, is his devotion, is the religion that he brought, the Quran that he taught, and the principles that he established. And that lesson learned from the Prophet, from the household of Ali and Fatima, is what we find in Karbala. So, on the eve of Ashura and on the day of Ashura, you find the companions are gathered. Tomorrow is the night of Ashura, we will remember that Habib gathers the companions and says that let no harm come to any of the family of the Prophet so long as any of us are alive. And Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas gathers the family of the Prophet and says that these companions have come out of love for us, out of love for our Imam, out of love for our Prophet. Let us go forward to honor their commitment and offer our lives for Islam as our ancestors, Ali ibn Abi Talib and Hamza and Ja'far al-Tayyar had done. And one of those who was at the foremost, in the prime of his life, was the beloved son of Imam Hussein, Ali al-Akbar. How difficult it must have been on the day of Ashura for Imam Hussein to look at this son who was so beautiful in his character and in his demeanor that it is said that even the people of Medina did not wish to part from Ali Akbar. But when the time came, and Ali al-Akbar came to his father and said that, Father, do you give me permission to go and do battle? When Qasim came, when Aun and Muhammad came, when others asked, Imam Hussein first said no. He made one excuse or another to delay the inevitable. Ali Akbar comes and says, Father, Do I have permission to go to the battlefield? And history says that Imam Hussein did not hesitate and said, go, my son, do what Allah has created you for. But then the Imam looked at his son, فَنَظَرَ إِلَيْهِ نَظْرَةَ آيِسٍ, and then he looked at him as if he was losing hope that he would ever see his son alive and in such good health again. And it is said that as Ali Akbar now, with the permission of his father and enthusiastic to fight courageously in defense of Islam, was going towards the battlefield, Imam Hussein called after him, Ya bunayya mahlan mahla. Oh my son, wait! Don't rush to the battlefield. Maybe Ali Akbar would have turned back and says, Father, but did you not give me permission? And either Imam Hussein or Lady Zainab herself would have come forward. Oh, Ali Akbar, you asked permission from your father, but what about your aunt Zainab? Are you not going to ask permission? What is going through her heart as she sees that you are going towards the battlefield? For Zainab and Hussein were both attached to the memory of their beloved grandfather Rasulullah, whom they were separated from at a young age. And that love was expressed by Imam Hussein when he said, looking towards the heavens as his son went to the battlefield, Allahumma shhad ala hadha al-qawm فإنه قد برز إليهم غلام أشبه الناس خلقا وخلقا ومنطقا برسولك وكنا إذا اشتقنا إلى نبيك نظرنا إليه. O my Lord, bear witness against these people, for there goes before them a young man today who was the most similar in his speech and in his physical features and in his character to your prophet. And whenever we would remember your beloved prophet, oh Allah, we would say, Ali Akbar, come before us, speak that we may see the memory of the prophet before our lives. Zainab would have said to Ali Akbar that, so my son, so soon you wish to go and leave your aunt with a grief that can never come to an end. She hugged Ali Akbar and wept until maybe he said that, oh my aunt, I would not separate from your grip, from your arms, but my father awaits. And now Zainab and Hussein together, they prepare this young hero for battle. They mount him on his horse. He goes before the enemy. It is said that Imam Hussein turned towards the heavens and said that, oh Allah, I have given Ali Akbar in your path. But if I can lay eyes on him one more time, Allah give me the opportunity. And he sees that from the battlefield, Ali Akbar returns. He says, Father, if I can have but a sip of water, then I feel that I will be able to turn the enemy back. Imam Hasan says, oh my son, I have no water to give you, but now go and fulfill your covenant with your Lord. Ali Akbar goes to the battlefield, never to return. When he falls a martyr, he calls out to his father, and the world goes dark before the eyes of Imam Hussein. It is said that he called out, oh my son Ali, keep calling me, for I see not where I go. I hear your voice and I come to your body. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Allah, send your salutations upon Hussein, the family of Hussein, and those who were martyred with Hussein. Grant us to always shed tears in their love and to honor their memory and to further their path in our own lives and make this a legacy that remains in our generations until the Day of Judgment. O Allah, hasten the appearance of our Imam and grant us the intercession in the company of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad for all eternity in paradise. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.